Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Today we are still in 2002 for Leonardo DiCaprio. He has done a lot in 2002 and I think this is his last, this is his last 2002 movie because The Aviator is next, which is in 2004. But today we're talking about the 2002 film and the first Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio duo, Gangs of New York. Gangs of New York was released in 2002, and it was written by Jay Cox, Steven Zaillian, and Kenneth Lonergan, and directed by Martin Scorsese. Before we begin, I want to apologize for any background noise you might hear. My sister's baby's acting up, and she is not helping. So it might get a little loud, but I will just speak louder. But today, I woke up this morning, and I knew that this was on my schedule, but I don't know what it's about, and I don't really care how long it is, I guess. I found out it's like 3 hours long, and I'm like, oh god, like that's a long time. I write them down, like the times and stuff, I just don't really care. But today, wow, it was long. It felt even longer than it actually was. Like, if you followed me from before, you'll know that long movies are the death of me because I have a hard time paying attention. That doesn't mean that I don't pay attention. That just means that I'm way more tired after the movie than I normally would be. So I'm exhausted right now because this movie is so long. But for those of you who don't know what Gangs of New York is about, it's essentially this young boy is an Irish immigrant, and his father is also an Irish immigrant, and they immigrated to New York. And then they form a gang, kind of, like an Irish gang, called the Dead Rabbits. And they are fighting the natives, because the natives in New York want control over this central area of New York. But the Irish believe that they should get it because they also live in America. So then they fight, and the father dies. And then the young boy sees the killer before he's shipped off to an orphanage. Then, when he is of age, he comes back to New York. And he ends up working closely with... Sorry about the background noise again. He starts working closely with the person who killed his father so he can learn how to kill him easily. And then in the end, there's this giant battle. It's kind of anticlimactic, and he kills him. That's like the end of the movie. It's a little cheesy at times, and it's really long. There's so much stuff in the middle of this movie that just didn't need to exist, but it existed. Like, there was that love interest with Cameron Diaz, which, like, is fine. I'm okay with it. Like, I get there should be a romantic component in the movie. However, I don't think it was that important that it's that big of a deal. It blossomed into a beautiful side plot that took us nowhere. And, like, oh, man, it was so long. I can't, like, Titanic felt like it was an hour long, but it was 3.5 hours long. This was 3 hours long and felt like it was 4 hours long. It was so long. Like, wow. And that being said, I didn't hate a lot of it. I didn't like a lot of it, and I'm going to go over that right now. So first of all, the beginning of the movie was solid. I really enjoyed leading up to the first fight. Then there's that first fight where the father of the priest dies. And, like, the bloodshed in that movie isn't very good. It looks very fake. The fighting in general looks really fake, which is unfortunate because I understand they're trying to do things without using CGI and stuff. I don't think there was... I bet there was some CGI, like the elephant was probably CGI, and some other elements are probably CGI, but for the most part, I'm pretty confident that it was, you know, not real blood, but, like, real effects. Like, they put fake blood everywhere. But the problem is that the fake blood looked real fake. So it really bothered me a lot. Like, when you would stab someone, there would be no blood. And I was like, what happened to the blood? And then all of a sudden, there'd just be like, blood. And I was like, okay. And then, like, sometimes you'd stab someone, and the blood would just go like a perfect, like, fountain of fake blood. And it looked real cheesy and dumb. And then we got to see Leonardo DiCaprio. And I was like, hey, he looks like a man. I was very confused because, like, up until now, he looked like he was, like, 15. And now I'm like, whoa, he's, like, 25. Like, how did that happen? But I think it might be the beard. He grew a beard for this one, like a tiny, tiny little beard, and I was like, hey, that's a man. But regardless, this is the first time that I can safely say he looks like a man. I know that he filmed this and Catch Me If You Can like right next to each other. And if you remember my Catch Me If You Can video, I did mention he kind of looks like a man, but like not really. Here, you really do see the adult side of Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was nice because I didn't feel like it was weird for him to be, fighting and all this stuff because he didn't look like a teenager in this one. But then he gets close with the person that killed his father, and for a moment there, and by a moment I mean like an hour, I kind of thought maybe he had forgiven him and was like actually working with him, and then all of a sudden his friend like betrayed him, and then all of a sudden it was like boom, back to like hatred, and it just felt kind of weird and cheesy. I didn't really need that. I don't think we needed it at all. I think it'd have been better if he came there, worked with him, and then actively was finding a way to kill him. Because it felt very passive in this film, which is really annoying. If we had been actively looking for a way to kill him, it would have been way better, I think. So it is a great idea, and I think it was well executed for what they wanted to do. I just don't think that what they wanted to do was the best that they could do with this kind of material. They could have made this a very fun and challenging and diverse movie about, Leonardo DiCaprio's character finding a way to kill his father's killer, without having it be 3 hours long and it be kind of an action western, is how I'd put it. But the action wasn't very good and it wasn't very long. The final fight kind of annoyed me because I had been waiting 2.5 hours for it, and it was very anticlimactic. It was not very fun to watch, and all of a sudden, like, all the troops were gone. Like, it was like two giant armies. I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna watch them clash and like watch blood and like people dying everywhere. And then no, it was just like, oh, and now it's just those two, and it was like, what just happened? Like, it felt very anticlimactic, which is a problem because that's what we've been waiting for 2.5 hours for. I didn't particularly enjoy or care for the final fight, and honestly, as good as Leonardo DiCaprio's character was, I kind of liked Daniel Day-Lewis better, but we'll get to that when I talk about the acting, which is right now. So let's start with Leonardo DiCaprio, who played Amsterdam Vallon. So he was a kid when his father died, and now he is back, and he's an adult, and he is going to seek revenge for his father. Leonardo DiCaprio is great in this film. I enjoyed him a lot. However, I don't think it didn't feel like his kind of film, Like, there were only a couple moments where we're allowed to see emotion from him. For the most part, it's just vengeance. And vengeance is never a good, like, acting component. It's never, like, you don't want to play vengeance. You want to play, like, anger or upset. Like, something active. Vengeance is kind of passive for the most part until the very end of the movie. And there were some parts where we would see Leonardo DiCaprio's soft side, and then we'd see his hard side, and I liked that. I liked that a lot. But I feel like it wasn't a good use of Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm hoping we get to see more dramatic entries in Leonardo DiCaprio's filmmaking. I know a lot of his movies are, relatively action-related for the next couple weeks. Not that I'm not looking forward to them, because I think they're good. I liked this one somewhat. I didn't like a lot of it, but it wasn't Leonardo DiCaprio's fault that I didn't really like it, more so than I think it was Martin Scorsese's fault and the writing's fault. Next is The Aviator. I'm actually really looking forward to that one because it looks fantastic. But I also, if you remember when I watched The Quick and the Dead, I'm not a Western guy. I don't really like Western movies. I don't like gun shooting movies, and this has really felt like one of those. And Leonardo DiCaprio, don't get me wrong, did great. I enjoyed watching him in this, but I don't think this was his best movie by far. Next, we have Daniel Day-Lewis as Bill Butcher. I know I've seen him somewhere, but I can't quite place where. But I watched this movie and I was like almost entranced by him. Like the very beginning of the film, I was like, he kind of seems overacting, and like even towards the beginning of Leonardo DiCaprio's part, I kind of thought that Daniel Day-Lewis was really overacting. It was like kind of overreaching with what he should be doing. But then by like the middle of the movie, I was like, oh, this bad guy's really fun and really fun to watch. And he kind of has a reason to be mean, but also he's not mean. He's respectful. That's what I like about this villain particularly, is that he's a bad guy, of course, because he's anti-Leonardo DiCaprio's character. But he also is respectful and nice to people. And it's like, that's what I like in a villain. I don't like a villain that's just pure evil. I love a villain that I can like. And I liked Bill Butcher a lot. I almost wanted to see him succeed in what he wanted to do, but if it wasn't for the protagonist, I'd be like, okay, well, he can be the leader of the gang. That's fine. But in general, I did enjoy Daniel Day-Lewis's performance. I think, in my opinion, it was better than Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in this one. Not by much, but it was, I think, better. And finally, Cameron Diaz as Jenny Everdeen. There's a lot of actors I could talk about, like Liam Neeson, Brendan Gleeson, but there's no reason to. They were barely in the movie. They did fine. But Cameron Diaz played Jenny Everdeen, and she was the love interest that I didn't think we needed for Leonardo DiCaprio. And she has this wicked long backstory about how she got raped by Bill Butcher, and then they cut the baby out and all that stuff. Which don't get me wrong, made me feel for her and made me like her more. However, I didn't care to like her, right? I knew that by the end of the film, it's not going to matter, and it didn't matter. It didn't come back ever after that. It just took forever to explain, and honestly, that has nothing to do with Cameron Diaz, but the writing was really long. Cameron Diaz was good. I don't typically watch her movies. I know her mostly from Shrek, but I did enjoy watching her in this film. I think she was fine. I don't think she was ready to compete against Leonardo DiCaprio and Daniel Day-Lewis. Those two actors are phenomenal, and they kind of fought each other for screen time and ego, it felt like, and I kind of liked it because it matched the theme of the movie. But I don't think Cameron Diaz was quite up to the challenge to match those screen performances. That about does it for Gangs of New York. As you heard me say before, I didn't quite enjoy it, really. I thought the special effects that didn't really exist kind of sucked, for 2002 at least. And I didn't really like how long it was, and the plot devices they used were just too long. It was a cool idea, but it could have been done better, and I'm going to give this movie a C+. But that's going to do it for me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. It is, Tuesday that I'm releasing this, so I hope you guys have a good week. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing Doctor Strange, so tune in for that if you like the MCU. I know a lot of you do. And that's really going to do it for me today. So as always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.